Hi, everybody. Welcome to Green Stage Show, a podcast where we're going to talk about the accomplishment and background of people in your community. It's also going to help you explore all the different opportunities that you have across different business industry. I am your host, David Bukanga, and I'm here with Jessica and Cal, owners of Good Glaze Donut. How y'all doing today?
Doing pretty good. And yourself?
Yes, I'm good.
Good.
Okay. Has opening Good Glaze Donut always been like a goal of you? How did that idea came to your mind?
So the past few years, well, I guess the few years before we opened Good Glaze Donuts, we had talked about opening a cafe. We've been in the food business for quite a while and wanted to do something of our own, less stressful than a restaurant, and something that we could use our passions towards.
But for Good Glaze, actually, it was Kyle's idea kind of thing. He got together with a friend. He was taking a little bit of medical leave because of his CF. And he was just like so bored at home. So anyways, they got together and he was saying that there's this lady that was making donuts for a market in, where was it?
So the woman that was doing the donuts, she lived in New Brunswick, and she would travel over to Charlottetown and PEI every weekend and sell her donuts. And my friend, who's a chef out there, said they'd go to the market, and this lady was just killing it selling donuts. And we got talking about how North Bay had just Tim Hortons or country style for donuts. So why not up the game and do some donuts ourselves? So what started as a bit of a joke at a Christmas time in 2018 has turned into quite the endeavor.
Oh, that's really special. I heard that you opened your store right before pandemic type thing in 2020. Am I right? Or?
Yeah, so we started at markets in 2019. It was a monthly market. It was a hustle at that point, right? I had a full-time job. Kyle was at home, super busy. Once the market closed for the season, we still got quite a few requests for donuts, and like we were trying to do like not quite a monthly thing, maybe a little bit more often. It grew and grew and grew, and we opened our first little store in February of 2020. So we were open for about 6 weeks before we got full shutdown. I remember that day, I was working the store that day, and everybody was coming into the store like, have you heard the news? Like, this is happening. You're going to get shut down. And I'm like, sorry, what? I had no clue of what the heck was going on at this point in time. Got home that afternoon and we're like, well, I guess this is it for now. And let's try to figure out how we're going to do it now.
Okay. So when the store closed, did you keep running your business? Like, how did that moment shifted for you?
So we took, that was March 20th, I think we got the news that the province was being locked down.
16th, St. Paddy's Day.
So we got the news that the province was being locked down. I was actually in the hospital at the time due to health complications. So Jess was running the show on her own, and we said, well, we're gonna shut down. We have to, and see what happens. So we took 2 weeks where nothing happened. I finished my hospital stay, and Jess enjoyed living at home with the dogs. And when I got back to North Bay early in April, we started talking about what we could do to work within the limitations of the lockdown, but also to stay safe and abreast of the law. So we started back up on a delivery-only option a couple of weeks after the official lockdown began, and we would do 1 or 2 days a week where we would just deliver ourselves throughout town. So
yeah, that's special. I also read an article from the city that's saying that you have more than 75 different flavors. I just wanted to know, like, how did that creativity like came to you guys to have so many different flavors?
So that's mostly my brain in this case. I'm not going to say that they're all good, 75 flavors, but usually if I eat something, or let's say with the Black Forest donuts, I know that's Kyle's favorite cake.
Okay.
I'm like, I really want to make this happen for you. So how can I put some sort of like a dessert or a cake into a donut? So I just break down the components of, so in this case, let's say the cherry jam, the whipped cream, the chocolate, and see how we can assemble, like reassemble it into a donut. So inspiration comes from literally anywhere. We've had requests for some very strange flavors. For some that are now part of our classics, like the C is for cookies. It started for a birthday party for a little girl. She really loved milk and cookies.
Oh.
So we kind of put it together for her, and it's now been on the menu since day, like I think 5 kind of thing. So yeah, it comes from many places. And I'm from South America, so my background is a little bit different. And I do try to bring some of that into what we do. It's a way of honoring where I come from as well. So it's just fun.
That's special. You just mentioned that you're from South America. I heard that you're from Colombia, right?
Yes.
So you came here to pursue your studies in Canada. Can you a bit touch on that? Like, what advice you would give to an international student?
So it was definitely a very interesting experience. Definitely, it's a bit of a shock in culture, as it is. I was fortunate enough that I had moved through 3 different countries before when I was a kid. So I was pretty good at adapting to new situations. The big difference at this point, I moved here on my own. I didn't move with my family. So I had to like learn a lot starting up. I guess for me, like looking back, you have to absorb and adapt to where you are. Become part of the culture, learn the culture, learn how people behave, because it's probably very different than where you come from. I am a very warm person, and very quickly I learned that hugging everybody was probably not the greatest idea. But also with time, I also learned that showing those parts of my culture and my background are also a good thing. So you have to find that balance between what works here and what works with who you are.
Okay. What program did you take in college?
I took culinary administration.
Oh, that's nice. And you graduated in that field too?
Yes, so I finished that. I took about 1.5 years of business after, which I did not enjoy as much as I thought I was going to. And actually, with the start of the pandemic, I also started graphic design, which I'm soon to be graduating from.
Kyle, I learned that when you opened Good Glaze, you were working at a full-time job. I wanted to know, like, what was that job and how was it to manage the time devoted to the business while being at school for you and while working a full-time job?
So before we opened Good Glaze, I worked for Shark Mobile here in town. So my responsibilities there were general admin duties, and then I helped do remote start installs, stereo, like 12-volt car stuff, window tinting, vinyl wrapping, fun things like that. I've worked between the food and the car industry for most of my life, so it was a good fit after we moved back to North Bay. And then when we started the business, it was definitely a juggling act. So I slightly reduced my hours working at Shark to be able to work more with the donut shop. And so I would work, depending on the week, 5 to 7 days a week. There were days where if I was working at Shark, I would sometimes get up early and work on donut work. So I'd be up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I would do what I needed to do, leave at 8:30 to go to my normal job, work there, finish up anywhere between 3 and 5 that day, go home, continue donut work for the next day.
That's a lot of hours.
There was a lot of hours between me working and then Jess doing school at the same time. There were weeks where we were sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night each if we were lucky. So it was definitely a juggling act and a lack of social life. But to get the business going, we didn't want to be dependent on it. So we did whatever we could to make sure that any money that the business brought in, we could reinvest into bettering the business. So
I guess blessing in disguise. With COVID, there was no social gatherings, so we had nowhere to go, just work and school, and that was that.
But was it stressful for you guys? And did you always knew that the business was gonna thrive?
Stressful, yes. At points, very stressful. And at points, thinking like we had things figured out and kind of knew what we were doing. It was a real roller coaster in that regard. And then, I don't know, Jess, did you know that the business would thrive? I questioned on a few points.
I mean, if I'm being 100% honest, definitely not. And that's why I had started school, because he was like, that was the goal for me to become a graphic designer. And then I feel like as an entrepreneur, your drive is coming from your need. And at that point, with everything that was going on in the world, we just needed to stay employed. And so we just decided to grow the business as much as we could. And I mean, we were lucky that we had all the community support. And I know that not a lot of people made it through. So definitely very, very lucky in that regard. But did we think that this was going to be it when we started? Definitely not.
I wanted to ask, is there like any moment where you realize like the huge potential of Good Glaze? Any moment specifically, or?
For me, one of the night markets, actually, when we first started up, it would have been, I think, the night market in August. So we had done a few markets before this. And, we would go because it was just downtown on the street, we would set our tent up and tables, and all our donuts were carried in these big coolers. And we were so busy, we sold out halfway through the market. And it was at that point, for what was just a once a week kind of thing, it was a large amount of sales. And it wasn't that I knew that it was going to be a big thing, but it kind of reiterated to me that there was a want or a desire for the product that we were making, and that as long as we kept up our quality, we should be able to make some more growth than just doing a one night a week thing. And we've tried to do our best.
It just snowballed from there. It's been like, when I look back, I'm like, how did we made it through? Like, how are we here? It's been just one thing after the other, but at the same time, it's been little steps of growth. We haven't just like jumped in full in, absolutely crazy. We've just kind of waited. Okay, can we do this little thing next? And very safely, I think, as well. As in not risking all the effort that we've put into, which is one big move. So
I think for me too, like one of the other big moments was in Mother's Day of 2020.
Yeah.
So the first lockdown had restrictions had eased. People were able to do pickups. And for our Mother's Day special, it was so popular that our old location was lined up around the block. Like we couldn't even see the end of the line from our storefront. And it was crazy. It was nonstop work for hours, but to see how happy everybody was and how willing they were to wait for our stuff. I think that was kind of a spot where we were like, okay, we can hopefully make a career out of this. So.
Okay. I've heard from many people that you two are engaged a lot in the community. What are some ways that you give back to community, and how important is it to you to give back to the community?
So we are very involved in the community as often as we can be. Starting back when we first opened our store, we would do a fundraiser donut. So proceeds from that donut would go to a specific charity. At the start of the year, we would pick 5 local avenues to donate to, whether it was the Humane Society, Amelia Rising, the Gathering Place, you name it. We would pick 5, and then for what was about 6 weeks periods, the sales from that specific donut, those proceeds would go to the charity. And then we kind of found with COVID happening, everybody was doing some sort of fundraising. So we decided instead of doing an actual fundraise campaign, we would just budget funds to be able to donate where we could, or donate gift cards or sponsor events, that kind of thing, to be involved and make sure that we could be helping out various organizations. So two of the big ones for us, the Cystic Fibrosis chapter here in North Bay, primarily because I have CF, so it's a charity close to heart. And
can you talk a bit more about that? Like, just explain to the audience who maybe don't know what that disease is.
So cystic fibrosis is a genetic lung disease. Actually, I guess it's better classified as a multi-organ disease. The primary issue is the lungs and the stomach. So have trouble breathing, think of asthma, but on a much grander all the time scale. Your lungs get filled up with thick buildup, you have a hard time breathing, digestive system doesn't absorb properly, so typically people are chronically underweight, lack of energy. So you put it all in a package and it makes things pretty hard some days. Average life expectancy right now is miraculously, I believe 51 is the mean life expectancy. When I was a child, it was about 14. So medical advancements have come a long way and helped me be able to do what I'm doing today.
Okay, I didn't know that was something that you were born with. That.
Yeah. So it's and like my brothers don't have it because of the way it's passed on from the parents. So
Thank you, but I find that amazing that everything you do for the community and help people that are fighting the same battle as you. Mm-hmm. I've seen in one of your posts on Facebook that you participated in the Toronto waterfront half marathon.
Yeah, that was me.
That was you?
Yeah. So I used to run quite a bit when we lived in BC. I got into running. That was, I guess, my second half marathon at that point. Did I train accordingly? Definitely not, because that's when the business started and everything started to go kind of crazy. But I still did it. I'm hoping to, now that things have settled down a little bit more, I'm hoping to start training again and be able to run it again next year. But we'll see.
I'm not a big fan of long distance. Like, I will run just to keep myself in shape for basketball, but running long distance, that's maybe a goal that I will have in the future. We'll see about that.
I'm a little bit crazy about pushing myself, so that's
before we left BC, Jess had plans to not just run a half marathon, but run an ultra marathon in the mountains. So ultras are 50 kilometers or more. Mm-hmm. Typically, they're closer to the 100-kilometer mark.
Yeah. One day.
So she's since taken that drive and putting it into running a business.
For how long do you know each other?
We've been together for about 12 years?
12 years in March, yeah. And for that, I've had the privilege of being married for 7.5 years.
Oh my God.
That's amazing. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I wanted to know, what is the most important lessons that you've learned over your careers?
For me, I guess it's to be patient, and not just be patient with life, but with the path that you're going on. It might not always be clear. It might not always be what you want. But hard work and patience will get you where you want to be.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
For me, one of the biggest things I would say is making sure for self-time, self-care, especially as an entrepreneur, it's very easy to get in a groove and you're working so hard and then certain things start to fall by the wayside, social life, etc. So really making a point to schedule downtime, time away from work and
turn your phone off.
yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to know, like, can you tell me, do you have like the two most influential people in your life and how they impacted you? It could be anyone, celebrity, someone in your family, whoever.
So for me, and Jess is going to get a laugh at this, the two people that are influential for me are my mother and my wife, Jessica. My mother being, she was mostly a single mother of 3 boys, who was also a full-time RN at our local hospital. Worked hard, worked all the time. There was always food on the table. All the bills were always paid. She went without at times, but she made sure that, instilled in me good work ethic and to care about others, because that can make a huge difference. And my wife, because she's got a unrelenting willpower and availability to just make a plan and focus on it and get things done like nobody else I know. And it's pretty great to be able to be part of that. So.
Yeah, I think that's great that you touched on that, because like I've heard in the past, a lot of people are saying like when you get into business with someone you love, it can be tough, but just the way like I see your relation and just the way you guys are making this possible, I feel like it's amazing.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There is times that we probably want to just, kill each other. It happens.
Work can be a challenge some days.
But I think just the communication has improved so much, and we've set boundaries. And I think that's very important when you're gonna work with somebody you love, or your family, or a friend. Set your boundaries, and work is work, and life outside of work is a whole different thing. Because without that, if you let the lines blur, it usually means trouble. So, yeah. But thank you.
And you? Who's influential in your life?
Well, funny enough, I'm gonna count my family as a one person, because I take traits from everybody. Yeah, I see very good things in some what I like to call mirrors, so things that I would like not to have in my life or not to do. From each one of them, I think I have a little bit of something. Definitely how to be kind to others, and have people in mind, right? Like, this is what we do is not just for us. It's for us to be able to help other people, our employees, our community. Is not just let's make money and see how this goes, right? It's a tool to help. And my other person, actually, it's Kyle. Surprise! He actually did not know. And he has taught me a lot of things through the years. And one of them is how to be resilient. And I'm going to start crying here, so let's just leave it at that.
No, but I really like how you said family as one, and how you take traits from everybody, because even me, I'm the youngest of a family of 7 children.
Oh my gosh.
So I really took everything from all my siblings. I'm like a mix of everybody, so I really understand that. And to finish, if you could give 3 pieces of advice to university students who wants to start a business, what would that be? You can give it like together, like on each.
What do you think?
So for me, I'd say there's 3 things. First off is you need to trust your gut.
Yeah.
The second is you need to trust your numbers. And the third is you need to put in the work. If you want something to succeed, it's not going to be because someone else did the work for you. It's because you're going to have put in the grind, regardless of what the business is. It doesn't get there without the work. So those, I would say, would be the 3 things for me.
I'm going to agree with that, especially trust your numbers. Numbers would not lie, ever. If you put the numbers together and it's not going to be feasible, then there's your answer. And always go low. Lower your expectations. I mean, you think you're going to sell 500 donuts, then put your numbers for 100. And if at that point it works, then everything else is gravy. So you're good.
That's good. Thank you a lot, Cal and Jessica. So that's it for your first episode of your Crazy Show. You can find the full video on YouTube, and you can also find the full interview on all streaming platforms. Thank you.
Thank you.